One day, in the divine courts of heaven, the sons of Elohim presented themselves before the Almighty, and among them stood Satan, the adversary. "Have you considered my servant Job?" asks Eloah. "There is none like him, blameless, upright, a man who fears me and shuns evil." And the Satan smiles. "Strip it all away, his family, his wealth, his health, and he will curse you to your face." What follows is one of the oldest, most haunting stories ever written. A cosmic test, a brutal descent into suffering, a storm of silence, and a whirlwind of divine response. This is the story of a man who lost everything but found something greater in the ashes. This is the story of Job. Note, in the book of Job, the figure often translated as Satan is, in Hebrew, Satan, the accuser or the adversary. This is not a personal name, but a title, designating a role within the celestial court of Yahweh, the examiner of human faith. In the ancient Hebrew context, Satan is neither evil nor opposed to God. He serves within the heavenly council under Yahweh's authority. The later Christian concept of the devil does not appear in the original Hebrew text. Therefore, although some interpretations portray this figure as a personified evil being, this video presents him according to the ancient meaning of the text, as the divine prosecutor serving before Yahweh, the judge of heaven. In this context, and according to the correct meaning of the Tanakh, Yahweh is the judge, the sons of Elohim are the courtly attendants, and Satan is the prosecutor, testing the faith of Job, the righteous servant of God. In the land of Uz, sun-baked and vast beneath the skies of the east, there lived a man whose name was Job. He was flawless and upright, a man who feared Elohim and turned from evil like one who guards the gates of his own soul. His steps did not stray, his words did not stumble. In the courts of heaven and the earth below, there was no one like him. 7 sons and 3 daughters were born to him, children like olive shoots at his table. His household overflowed with abundance, 7,000 sheep grazing across the ridges, 3,000 camels winding through the hills, 500 yoke of oxen turning the fields, 500 jennies braying in the pastures, and a host of servants that moved like a living rhythm through his estate. Among all the sons of the east, none were greater than Job. Each son, in his turn, would host a feast in his home, a banquet rich with bread and wine. They would call their sisters to sit with them, and laughter would rise like incense over the table. But when the days of feasting had passed, Job would rise early, before the sun kissed the hills, and he would consecrate them all. For he feared the unseen sin, the silent scorn of Elohim in their hearts. So he offered burnt offerings, one for each child, and thus Job did all his days. And there came a day when the sons of Elohim gathered before Yahweh, and among them came the Satan. He moved among them like a shadow with voice. "From where do you come?" asked Yahweh. And the Satan answered, "From roaming the earth, from walking its width and breadth." Then Yahweh said, "Have you set your heart upon my servant Job? There is none like him on earth, flawless and upright, fearing Elohim and turning away from evil." But the Satan curled his words like smoke. "Does Job fear Elohim for nothing? Have you not hedged him in, his household, his fields, all he touches? You have blessed the work of his hands. His flocks break forth across the land like a river in flood. But stretch out your hand, touch what is his, and see if he does not curse you to your face." And Yahweh replied, "Behold, all that he has is in your hand, only do not lay a hand on him." So the Satan departed from the presence of Yahweh, and it came to pass on a day of wine and rejoicing, when Job's sons and daughters were feasting in the house of the firstborn, that messengers began to arrive, one upon another, like waves striking a broken shore. The first came breathless. The oxen were plowing, the jennies grazing beside them. But the Sabaeans fell upon us, stole the herds, struck down the servants with the sword. Only I escaped to tell you." Before he finished speaking, another arrived. Fire from Elohim fell from the heavens. It consumed the sheep and the servants with them. Only I escaped to tell you. Then a third burst in. The Chaldeans, 3 raiding bands. They swept in upon the camels, struck the servants with the sword, and carried off the beasts. Only I escaped to tell you." And as his voice still trembled, a fourth came, pale and staggering. "Your sons and daughters were feasting in the house of their eldest brother. A great wind rose from the wilderness. It struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed upon them all. They are dead. Only I escaped to tell you." Then Job arose. He tore his robe. He shaved his head. He fell to the ground, not in despair, but in worship. And he said, "Naked I came forth from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return there. Yahweh gives and Yahweh takes away. Blessed be the name of Yahweh." In all these things, Job did not sin. He did not charge Elohim with wrongdoing. There came another day, appointed and weighty, when the sons of Elohim gathered once more to present themselves before Yahweh. Among them came the Satan again, silent and unyielding, to take his place before the throne of heaven. Yahweh asked him as before, "From where do you come?" And the Satan replied, "From roaming through the earth, from walking back and forth upon it." Then Yahweh spoke with deliberate authority, "Have you set your heart again upon my servant Job? There is none like him in all the earth, a man flawless and upright, fearing Elohim and turning away from evil. And still he holds fast to his integrity, even though you incited me against him to destroy him without cause." But the Satan answered, sharpening his challenge like a blade, "Skin for skin. Indeed, all that a man has, he will give for his life. But stretch forth your hand and strike his bone and his flesh, and he will surely curse you to your face." Yahweh gave his reply with sovereign restraint. "Behold, he is in your hand, only spare his life." And so the Satan departed from Yahweh's presence and struck Job with terrible boils, from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. Job went out and sat among the ashes. His throne became a heap of dust, and he took a broken shard of pottery to scrape the sores from his skin, his body disfigured, his dignity wrapped in silence and dust. Then his wife, heavy with anguish and undone by grief, came to him and said, "Do you still hold on to your integrity? Curse Elohim and die." But Job answered her, not with cruelty, but with the firmness of one who still feared Elohim through the veil of suffering. "You speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from Elohim and not also accept evil?" In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Far off, his friends heard what had come upon him. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, 3 companions of old, left their homes when the news reached them. They arranged together to visit Job, to mourn with him and bring comfort, if comfort could be found. But when they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him. Grief and affliction had altered him beyond all imagining. They lifted their voices and wept aloud. Each tore his robe and cast dust toward the heavens upon his head, mourning with the earth itself. Then they came near and sat down beside him upon the ground. 7 days and 7 nights passed, and not one word was spoken. The silence between them held a sacred weight, for they saw that his suffering was very great. After many days of silence, when the ashes had cooled and the voices of his friends were still, Job opened his mouth and broke the stillness that had bound the earth around him. His voice, hoarse and low, rose not in prayer, but in lament. He cursed the day of his birth, that fragile dawn which had once welcomed him into light. "May the day perish on which I was born," he cried, "and the night that whispered, 'A man is conceived.'" He called upon the darkness to swallow that day, that it might be erased from the scroll of creation. "Let that day be darkness," he said. "Let not Eloah seek it out, nor let his light shine upon it. May shadow and the blackest gloom reclaim it. May a cloud settle upon it like a tomb, and the terrors of the storm make it their dwelling." His words gathered like thunder. He turned to the night that had once carried his beginning and declared, "May that night be seized by despair. Let it not be counted among the days of the year, nor find its place among the months. Let it be barren and void, and let no song of joy enter it." He called upon those who curse days to curse that one, those ancient voices who claimed power to rouse the dragon of chaos. "May the stars of its dawn grow dim," he said. "Let it look for light and find none. Let it never behold the eyelids of the morning, for it failed to close the doors of my mother's womb, and it did not hide sorrow from my eyes." Then he turned inward, his lament deepening into the marrow of his being. "Why did I not die from the womb?" he said. "Why did I not breathe my last as I came forth from the belly? Why were knees there to receive me, or breasts to give me milk? For then I would lie still and be at rest. I would sleep, and it would be peace. I would be as kings and counselors of the earth, those who built tombs for themselves among desolate ruins, or as princes who filled their houses with gold and silver. Why was I not as a stillborn child, hidden away, like infants who never saw the light?" He imagined the grave, not as terror, but as release. "There," he said, "the wicked cease from troubling, and the weary are at rest. There the prisoners are at ease together. They no longer hear the voice of the taskmaster. The small and the great are there alike, and the servant is free from his master." But his despair returned again, as a wave that cannot stay calm. "Why," he asked, "is light given to those in misery, and life to those bitter in soul? They long for death, but it does not come. They dig for it more than for hidden treasure. They rejoice exceedingly when they find the grave. Why is light given to a man whose path is hidden, whom Eloah has hedged in?" Job's voice trembled like water. "My sighing comes instead of my bread," he said, "and my groanings pour out like floodwaters. For the very thing I fear has come upon me, that which I dreaded has found me. I have no peace, no quiet, no rest, only turmoil." And when his words were spent, the silence returned. But it was no longer a silence of waiting. It was the silence that follows a cry too deep for comfort, a silence that held the weight of heaven's watching and the ache of a soul stripped bare before Elohim. Then Eliphaz the Temanite opened his mouth and spoke. His words came with the measured tone of age and observation, yet beneath them stirred the fire of retributive certainty. He began with caution, as though approaching a wound still fresh. "If one ventures a word with you, will you be wearied?" he asked. "Yet who can withhold from speaking?" He reminded Job of what he once was, how his voice had lifted many from despair. "You have admonished many," Eliphaz said. "Your words have strengthened hands that were weak. You raised up those who stumbled. You made trembling knees stand firm." There was no accusation in this, only the weight of irony. "But now," he continued, "trouble has come to you, and you are dismayed. It touches you, and you are unsettled." He asked almost gently, "Is not your fear of Elohim your confidence? Is not your integrity your hope?" But the tenderness gave way to doctrine. "Consider this: who that is innocent ever perished? Where have the upright ever been destroyed?" Eliphaz's voice settled into the grooves of what he believed to be eternal law. "As I have seen," he said, Those who plow iniquity and sow misery, they shall reap the same. By the breath of Eloah they perish. By the spirit of his nostrils they are consumed. He turned to image and proverb. The lion roars, but even its strength fades. The black lion's voice is silenced. The teeth of fierce lions are broken, and the cubs of the lioness are scattered. Power does not preserve the proud forever. Then Eliphaz grew solemn, and his tone shifted, as though haunted by something not fully his own. "A word was brought to me in secret," he said. "My ear caught a whisper of it, barely a murmur, but it stirred me. In the visions of the night, when sleep rests heavy upon mortals, I was seized by dread. Trembling came upon me, and the bones within me shook. A wind passed across my face, and the hair on my flesh bristled. Something stood before me. I could not see its form, but I knew it was there. A presence, a shadow without name. It was still. And then a voice came. The voice asked, 'Can a mortal be righteous before Eloah? Can a man be pure before his Maker?' Eliphaz recited the words as if still shaken by their memory. 'If he places no trust in his own servants, if even his messengers he charges with error, how much more frail are those who dwell in houses of clay, whose foundations are in the dust?' He described mankind as moth-like, easily crushed, forgotten between morning and evening. They are pounded and perish forever, unnoticed. The cords of their tents are pulled away, and they die without wisdom." And with that, Eliphaz fell silent, having offered his first counsel, a word clothed in awe, shadowed by doctrine, and filled with the uneasy certainty of one who believes suffering always speaks of guilt. Eliphaz continued, his voice steady with conviction. "Call out now, see if anyone will answer you. To which of the holy ones will you turn? Surely vexation kills the fool, and jealousy slays the simple." He spoke as one who had seen the end of many such men, those who resisted the order of things and dared to question the hand of Elohim. "I myself have seen a fool take root," he said, "but suddenly his house was cursed. His children wandered far from safety, crushed at the gate with no one to rescue them. The hungry devoured his harvest, even taking it from secret places, while the thirsty gasped for what was once his." Eliphaz denied that suffering arose from the soil like weeds without cause. "Sorrow does not grow from the earth," he said, "nor does misery sprout from the ground. No, man is born to trouble, as surely as sparks fly upward from burning coals." Yet even in this bleak wisdom, Eliphaz offered a path. "As for me," he said, "I would seek El. I would present my case before Elohim." He turned to praise, of the one whose works are unsearchable and beyond counting. He does great and marvelous things, past understanding. He sends rain upon the earth and waters the open fields. He raises the lowly and sets them on high. He brings safety to those crushed in spirit. He frustrates the plans of the crafty, so that their hands cannot carry out their schemes. He catches the wise in their own deceit, and the plans of the cunning are overturned. He described how the proud stumble in daylight as if it were night, groping through life blind to what stands before them. "But he saves the needy," Eliphaz declared, "from the sword of the mouth and the hand of the oppressor. The poor find hope, and injustice is silenced." And then came the heart of his message, a doctrine laid bare with solemn assurance. "Behold, happy is the man whom Eloah corrects. Do not despise the discipline of El Shaddai. For though he wounds, his hands also heal. Though he strikes, he binds up." Eliphaz promised deliverance for the one who submits to this divine correction. "In 6 calamities he will rescue you. In 7, no evil shall touch you. In famine, he will redeem you from death. In war, from the sword. From the scourge of the tongue, you will be hidden. You will not fear destruction when it comes." He painted a future of peace and supernatural favor. You will laugh at devastation and hunger. You will not fear the beasts of the land, for you will have a covenant with the stones of the field, and the wild creatures will live in peace with you. Your tent will be secure. When you examine your dwelling, nothing will be missing. You will see your descendants flourish like the grass of the earth." Then, as if sealing his wisdom with tradition and testimony, Eliphaz concluded, "You shall come to the grave in a full age, like a sheaf of grain gathered in its season. Behold, we have searched this out. It is true. Hear it, learn it for yourself." Then Job answered. His voice, faint yet fierce, broke through the silence that had lingered between him and his friends. "If only my grief could be weighed," he said. "If only my sorrow could be set upon the scales. It would be heavier than the sand of the sea." His words trembled, but not from weakness. "That is why my speech is rash," he continued. "For the arrows of him who suffices are in me. Their poison seeps into my spirit. The terrors of Eloah array themselves against me." He spoke as one pierced by unseen hands. "Does the wild donkey bray when it has fresh grass? Does the ox low over its fodder? Can tasteless food be eaten without salt? Is there flavor in the slime of weeds?" He shook his head. "My soul refuses to touch them. They are like the food of sickness to me." His anguish was so deep that even the thought of sustenance brought revulsion. "Oh," he cried, "that my request might be granted, that Eloah would fulfill my desire, that it would please him to crush me, to release his hand and cut me off. Then I would still have this consolation, that I have not denied the words of the Holy One. Even in the pain he has not spared." Job's voice dropped low, almost as if speaking to himself. "What strength have I, that I should hope? What is my end, that I should prolong my life? Is my strength the strength of stones? Is my flesh bronze? There is no help left within me. Every resource of deliverance is driven from me." Then he turned to his friends, his eyes hollow with sorrow. A man who is melting away deserves kindness from his friends, even if he has forsaken the fear of El Shaddai. But my brothers are treacherous like a desert wadi, like streams that overflow in the winter but vanish when the heat comes. They are darkened with ice and swollen with snow, but when they thaw, they disappear. In the burning season, they vanish from their place. He paused, his words heavy with betrayal. Caravans turn aside from their way, trusting the streams, but they find nothing. They wander into the wasteland and perish. The caravans of Tema look for them. The travelers of Sheba hope to find them, but they are ashamed for having trusted in what fails. They come there and are confounded. So have you become to me. You see my calamity, and you shrink back. Job's voice grew sharper. Have I asked you for anything? Did I say, give me something? Did I ask for a bribe on my behalf or beg to be delivered from the hand of my enemies? No, all I asked for was understanding. Teach me, he pleaded, and I will be silent. Show me where I have erred. How pleasant are honest words. But what proof of honesty is there in your reproof? Do you think to correct my words when the words of one in despair are like the wind? You would even cast lots over the orphan. You would barter away your own friend. Then his tone softened, almost weary. Now look upon me, he said. I will not lie to your face. Turn, I beg you. Let there be no injustice. My righteousness still stands. Is there any iniquity on my tongue? Does not my mouth discern calamity? His voice faded, leaving behind the ache of isolation. The cry of a man wounded by the silence of heaven and the cold counsel of friends. The ashes around him did not stir, yet his lament reached the heart of the storm that would one day answer him. Job lifted his eyes from the ash heap, and his words flowed like the sigh of a weary laborer. Does not a mortal have hard service upon the earth? He asked. Are not his days like those of a hired hand? Like a slave who pants for the shade, Like a worker longing for his wages, so I am allotted months of futility. Nights of misery have been appointed to me. He spoke as one whose days stretched endlessly and whose nights offered no rest. When I lie down, he said, I ask, when shall I arise? But the night drags on. My body is restless until dawn. My flesh is clothed with worms and scabs. My skin cracks and festers. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle, and they come to their end without hope. Then his voice broke into prayer, half lament, half accusation. Remember, he cried, that my life is but a breath. My eyes will never again see good. The eyes that now look upon me will soon see me no more. You will search for me, but I will be gone. As a cloud fades and vanishes, so he who goes down to Sheol shall rise no more. He shall return no more to his house, and his place will remember him no longer. Job's anguish deepened, but his courage did not falter. Therefore, he said, I will not restrain my mouth. I will speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. Am I the sea or the great sea monster that you must set a guard over me? I thought. My bed will comfort me. My couch will ease my complaint. Yet you terrify me with dreams and startle me with visions, so that my soul chooses strangling, death rather than this frail body. His voice grew softer, desperate. I loathe my life, he whispered. I will not live forever. Leave me alone, for my days are but a breath. Then his tone turned heavenward again, trembling between awe and grief. What is man, that you make so much of him, that you set your heart upon him, that you visit him every morning and test him at every moment? How long will this go on? Will you not look away from me, or let me alone long enough to swallow my saliva? He fell silent for a breath, then spoke as one confessing to an unseen judge. I have sinned. But what have I done to you, O preserver of mankind? Why have you made me your target, so that I am a burden to myself? Why do you not forgive my transgression and pass over my iniquity? For soon I will lie down in the dust. You will search for me in the morning, but I will be gone. The wind moved faintly through the ashes as Job's voice faded. His plea hung in the air, unanswered, caught between the silence of earth and the stillness of heaven. Then Bildad the Shuhite answered, his words clipped and bracing, carried more by doctrine than compassion. How long, he asked, will you speak these things? The words of your mouth are like a great wind, loud but empty. He did not soften his tone. Does El pervert judgment? Does El Shaddai twist justice? Without hesitation, he pressed the wound deeper. If your sons sinned against him, then he cast them into the hand of their transgression. There was no mourning in his voice, only conclusion. To Bildad, the calamity was evidence. The death of Job's children was the fruit of hidden guilt. But you, he said, if you seek El earnestly, if you plead with El Shaddai, if you are pure and upright, then surely even now he will rouse himself on your behalf. He will restore peace to your home, because it is righteous. His words carried the logic of reward and punishment. Though your beginnings were small, your latter end would flourish greatly. He called Job to look to the past, to trust the testimony of the fathers. Ask the former generations, he urged, and consider the wisdom of their ancestors. For we are of yesterday, we know nothing. Our days are like a shadow on the earth. Will not those who came before direct you, instruct you with the words drawn from their hearts? He turned to imagery, drawn from the natural world, to illustrate the fate of the wicked. Can papyrus grow tall where there is no marsh? Can reeds thrive without water? While still green, before it is even cut, it withers faster than all other grasses. So are the paths of those who forget El. The hope of the godless perishes. Bildad described the life of the wicked as one held together by illusion. His confidence is like a spider's web. He leans on his house, but it does not stand. He clings to it, but it collapses beneath him. Though he may thrive in the sunlight, spreading his shoots across the garden, and his roots seem tangled and firm among stones, yet if he is uprooted, his place will deny him, saying, "I have never seen you." This, he said, is the joy of his brief way, but from that same soil, others will spring up in his place. And then, with a conclusion spoken like an axe swung at the base of the argument, he declared, "Behold, El does not reject a blameless man, nor does he take the hand of evildoers. He will yet fill your mouth with laughter, your lips with shouts of joy. Those who hate you will be clothed in shame, and the tent of the wicked, it shall be no more." And with that, Bildad fell silent. His words lingered not as balm, but as burden, an appeal to tradition, a demand for repentance, and an unwavering defense of Elohim's justice. But for a man buried in grief, even the truth, when wielded without mercy, cuts deep. Then Job answered, and the weight of his sorrow was clothed now in reverence and reason. "Truly," he said, "I know this is so. El does not pervert justice. But how can a mortal be righteous before him? If one desired to contend with El, he could not answer him once in 1,000 times. He is wise in heart, mighty in strength. Who has ever resisted him and fared well?" He raised his eyes to the sky and spoke of El Elion's sovereign acts. He moves mountains, and they do not know it. He overturns them in his wrath. He speaks to the sun, and it does not rise. He seals off the stars. He alone stretches out the heavens and treads upon the crests of the sea. He is the maker of the Bear, Orion, the Pleiades, and the hidden chambers of the south. His wonders are beyond comprehension, his deeds beyond counting. Job's voice trembled. "Behold, when he passes by me, I do not see him. When he moves past, I cannot perceive him. If he snatches away, who can turn him back? Who dares to say, 'What are you doing?'" Eloah does not withdraw his anger. Even the helpers of Rahab collapse beneath him. His tone grew more subdued, shaded with despair. "So how then can I answer him? How could I choose the right words before my judge? Even if I were righteous, I would not presume he would answer. If I called and he replied, I would not believe he heard me. For he crushes me in a whirlwind and multiplies my wounds without cause. He will not even let me catch my breath, but fills me with bitterness." He paused, then said, "If it's a matter of strength, behold, he is mighty. If it's about justice, who can summon him to court? Though I were righteous, my own mouth would condemn me. Though I were blameless, he would declare me guilty. Even if I were flawless, I wouldn't know myself. I would despise my own life." A darker conclusion rose from within him. It is all the same. That's why I say, he brings to ruin both the blameless and the wicked. When a scourge brings sudden death, he seems to mock the despair of the innocent. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. He veils the faces of its judges. If not he, then who? Job looked down, his voice quieter now. "My days are swifter than a runner. They flee, never to glimpse good. They pass by like reed boats skimming the river, like an eagle diving upon its prey." He tried to imagine laughter again. "If I say, 'Let me forget my complaint, let me smile,' still I am filled with dread. I know you will not hold me innocent. I am already condemned. Why should I struggle in vain?" He imagined cleansing himself, not just spiritually, but bodily. "If I washed myself with snow, if I scrubbed my hands with purity, you would plunge me into the filth, and my own clothes would loathe me." Then came the cry, not of rebellion, but of longing. "For he is not a man like I am, that I could answer him. I cannot summon him to court. There is no mediator between us, no one to place his hand upon both of us. Let him remove his rod from me, and let his dread no longer terrify me. Then I would speak without fear, but as I am now, I cannot." And with that, Job's voice faltered, not because his heart had failed, but because no bridge yet spanned the chasm between the dust of man and the throne of El Elyon. Job lifted his voice again, his tone trembling with both reverence and despair. "My soul loathes my life," he said. "Let me speak freely in the bitterness of my spirit. I will say to Eloah, do not condemn me. Show me why you contend with me. Is it good to you to oppress, to despise the work of your own hands, while the counsel of the wicked prospers beneath your light?" He paused, as though searching the unseen face of Elohim. "Do you have eyes of flesh? Do you see as a mortal sees? Are your days like a man's days, or your years like the days of a human life, that you must search out my iniquity and probe for my sin, though you know I am not wicked, and that none can deliver out of your hand?" Then his lament turned inward toward the memory of his own creation. "Your hands have shaped me and made me, yet now you would destroy me. Remember, I pray, you molded me like clay. Will you return me to dust so soon? Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? You clothed me with skin and flesh. You knit me together with bones and sinews. You granted me life and steadfast love, and your care watched over my spirit." He lowered his gaze, his words growing softer but more cutting. "Yet these things you hid in your heart. I know this was in your mind, that if I sin, you will watch me and not acquit me of my guilt. If I am wicked, woe to me. But if I am righteous, I dare not lift my head. I am filled with shame and drowned in humiliation." Job's breath quavered. "Like a lion you hunt me, El Shaddai. Again and again you show your power against me. You renew your witnesses before me, increase your anger toward me, and send one wave of sorrow after another." Then his question came, desperate, aching, unguarded. "Why then did you bring me out from the womb? Would that I had perished before any eye saw me. I should have been as though I had not been, carried from the womb to the tomb." His voice sank to a whisper. "Are not my days few? Turn from me, that I may find a moment's peace before I go to the land of darkness and deep shadow, to the land of gloom, as black as midnight, where order and light are no more, and even the light itself is like darkness." When Job finished, silence returned. The ashes beneath him seemed to deepen. He had not cursed Elohim, but he had laid bare his soul before the throne, asking not for vengeance or reward, but for understanding, and heaven, for the moment, remained still. Then Zophar the Naamathite answered, his voice rising not with compassion, but with disdain. "Shall this torrent of words go unanswered?" he asked. "Should a man full of talk be considered right? Will your boasts silence others? Will you mock without rebuke?" He leaned forward, speaking with pointed certainty. "You say, 'My doctrine is pure, and I am clean in your eyes.' But oh, would that Eloah himself would speak, would that he would open his lips against you and declare the hidden depths of his wisdom. For true wisdom is double-edged, layered and veiled. Know this, Eloah has in mercy forgotten some of your guilt." Zophar's words rang heavy. "Can you fathom the mysteries of Eloah? Can you probe the perfection of El Shaddai? They rise higher than the heavens. What can you do? They plunge deeper than the realm of the unseen. What can you know? Their span stretches longer than the earth, broader than the sea." His tone sharpened further. "If he passes by, or imprisons, or calls to court, who can stop him? He knows hollow men. He sees through wickedness. Will he not take note when evil stands before him? Empty-headed man would become wise only when a wild donkey's colt is born a human." He turned then to exhortation, but it was laced with condition. "If you would prepare your heart, spread out your hands to him. If iniquity is in your hand, cast it far away. Do not let unrighteousness dwell in your tents. Then you may lift your face without shame. You will stand firm, unafraid. You will forget your misery. It will pass like water under the earth. Zophar spoke of light, but it was distant and conditional. Your life shall shine brighter than the noonday sun. Though darkness comes, it will be as the morning. You will rest in security because there will be hope. You will lie down, and none will make you afraid. Many will seek your favor. But he ended with warning, not comfort. The eyes of the wicked will fail. All escape will be lost to them. Their only hope is the gasp of a dying breath. And so Zophar sat in his silence again, satisfied in his certainty, blind to the storm within the man before him. Then Job lifted his voice, not humbled, but sharpened. Truly, he said with scorn, you are the people, and wisdom shall die with you. His eyes narrowed, and his voice no longer trembled. But I too have understanding, no less than you. I fall behind no man. Who among us does not know such things as you speak? He looked upon them, those friends once trusted, and found himself their mockery. I have become the sport of my companions, he said. I, who called upon Eloah, and he answered. I, a righteous man and blameless, now made into a laughingstock. To the self-satisfied, misfortune is a jest, a snare laid for the feet of the faltering. His gaze turned outward, toward the wicked who prospered. Look, the tents of the destroyers lie undisturbed. Those who provoke El live at ease. Peace surrounds the man who carries an Eloah in his hand, as though Eloah could be bartered like silver. But then Job's voice deepened, reverent yet defiant. Ask the beasts of the field, they will teach you. Speak to the birds of the air, they will declare it. The earth knows, the fish of the sea will recount it. All of them know, the hand of Eloah has done this. In his hand is the soul of every living creature, the breath of all mankind. Does not the ear discern words as the tongue tastes food? He asked. Is wisdom found only in the aged, or does understanding live merely in long days? No, true wisdom and power belong to him. Counsel and insight are his alone. And then Job recounted what Eloah does with unchallenged sovereignty. If he tears down, none can rebuild. If he imprisons, no man can open the gate. If he withholds the waters, they dry and crack the earth. If he releases them, they flood the land. Strength and triumph are his. Both the deceived and the deceiver belong to him. He named the great and brought them low. He strips counselors of sense, and judges he makes fools. He looses kings from their rule and binds cords around their waists. He leads priests away naked. He overthrows the secure. He silences the lips of the trusted and takes understanding from the elders. He pours contempt on princes and loosens the belt of the mighty. From darkness he reveals deep things. The blackest shadow he brings into light. He exalts nations and then undoes them. He spreads them wide and then leads them into exile. And finally, Job painted the picture of a world turned senseless. He takes away discernment from the rulers of the earth and causes them to wander in a trackless waste. They grope in the dark with no light. He makes them stagger like drunkards lost in the night. Job had not answered with pleading, nor sorrow, nor even justification. He had answered with a rebuke to those who presume to speak for Eloah, and a solemn acknowledgement that the Most High does whatever he wills. Then Job answered again, his tone sharpened with weary resolve. Behold, he said, my eye has seen all these things, my ear has heard and understood them. What you know, I also know. I am not beneath you in understanding. But as for me, I would speak to El Shaddai. To plead my case before Elohim is my desire. He looked upon his friends, and his voice grew heavy with rebuke. You, however, smear the truth with lies. All of you are physicians of no value. Oh, that you would altogether hold your peace. That would be wisdom for you. Hear now my argument, and listen to the plea of my lips. Will you speak unrighteously for El? Will you talk deceitfully on his behalf? Will you show partiality toward him as though he needed your defense? His words struck like iron against their doctrines. Would it go well for you if he examined you? Could you mock him as one mocks a mortal? Surely he would rebuke you if you secretly showed favoritism. Will not his majesty terrify you, and his dread fall upon you? Your maxims are proverbs of ashes, your defenses are walls of clay. Then, turning away from them, Job addressed the unseen judge. Be silent before me, and let me speak. Whatever may come upon me, let it come. I will take my flesh in my teeth and put my life in my hands. Though he slay me, yet I will wait for him. I will still defend my ways before his face. This will be my salvation, for no godless man would dare come before him. He drew a long breath, his courage unbroken. Hear my words, let my declaration enter your ears. Behold, I have prepared my case. I know I will be vindicated. Who then will contend with me? For if I am silent now, I shall perish. Then Job lifted his plea heavenward. Only grant me two things, O El Shaddai, then I will not hide from you. Withdraw your hand far from me, and let not the dread of you terrify me. Then call, and I will answer, or let me speak, and you reply to me. His words softened, yet their anguish deepened. Show me my transgressions and my sins. Why do you hide your face from me and count me as your enemy? Will you frighten a leaf driven by the wind? Will you pursue dry stubble? For you write bitter accusations against me and make me inherit the sins of my youth. You put my feet in shackles and watch every step I take. You set boundaries on the soles of my feet. He fell silent, and his voice faded into lament. Man decays like something rotten, like a garment eaten by moths. And there Job sat, half defiant, half broken, yet still holding to one fragile, unyielding truth. He would not turn away from the one who wounded him. He would speak to El Shaddai himself. Job's voice grew soft now, less storm than sigh, his words spoken as though over a grave. Man, born of woman, he said, is short of days and full of trouble. He springs up like a flower and is cut down. He flees like a shadow and does not endure. He lifted his face toward heaven, weariness filling his breath. And yet, you fix your gaze upon such a one? You summon me, dust and breath, into judgment before you? Who can bring forth the clean from the unclean? Not one. His words flowed like the murmur of wind through stones. Since man's days are determined, and the number of his months is set by you, and his limits are drawn, so that he cannot cross them, then turn your eyes away from him and let him rest. Leave him alone, as a hired laborer finishes his day. Then a faint light of wonder passed through his lament. For there is hope for a tree, he said. If it is cut down, it will sprout again, and its tender shoots will not fail. Though its roots grow old in the earth, though its stump dies in the dust, yet at the scent of water it will bud and bring forth branches like a young plant. His voice trembled. But a man, he dies and is laid low. He breathes his last, and where is he? As water evaporates from a lake, as a river dries and is gone, so a man lies down and does not rise. Till the heavens are no more, they will not awake, they will not be roused from their sleep. Then, for a moment, yearning broke through despair. Oh, he said, that you would hide me in Sheol, that you would conceal me until your anger has passed, that you would appoint a set time and then remember me. He paused, then whispered the question that would echo through generations. If a man dies, shall he live again? All the days of my appointed time I will wait, until my renewal shall come. You will call, and I will answer. You will long for the work of your hands." His tone grew softer still, almost tender. "Now you number my steps, but then you will not keep watch over my sin. My transgression will be sealed up in a pouch, and you will cover over my iniquity." He looked to the earth again, his voice fading to a lament. "But even the mountains crumble and decay, the rock shifts from its place. The waters wear away the stones, and floods wash the soil from the ground. So you destroy the hope of man. You overpower him forever, and he is gone. You change his face and send him away. His sons come to honor, but he does not know it. They are brought low, but he does not perceive it. His flesh feels only its own pain, and his soul mourns within him." And when Job's voice fell silent, his words lingered like dusk, neither hope nor despair, but the haunting stillness of a soul waiting for the call of its maker from the depths of dust. Eliphaz the Temanite rose again, his words now sharpened, stripped of the earlier restraint. His patience had frayed, and what he offered was no longer comfort, but indictment. "Should a wise man answer with windy knowledge?" he asked, his voice heavy with disdain. "Should he fill his belly with the east wind? Your words, Job, are not wisdom, they are a storm. Empty declarations, declarations without profit." He stepped closer, speaking with solemn accusation. "You suppress the fear of Elohim, and you diminish the devotion that should rise before El. Your own iniquity teaches your mouth, and your tongue speaks the language of the crafty. It is not I who condemn you. Your own lips testify against you." His tone turned biting. "Were you the first man ever born? Were you brought forth before the hills? Do you sit in council with Eloah? Have you claimed wisdom for yourself as though none before you have known? What do you know that we do not know? Among us are the gray-haired, the aged, men older even than your father. Are the consolations of El too little for you?" he asked, his voice lowering. "Have the gentle words spoken to you become a burden?" Then, with rising reproach, "Why does your heart carry you away? Why do your eyes flash with anger, that you turn your spirit against El and let such reckless words pour from your mouth?" And then Eliphaz struck with theology deep and grim. "What is mortal man, that he should be pure? One born of woman, that he should be righteous? If Eloah puts no trust in his holy ones, if even the heavens are not clean in his sight, how much less man, abhorrent and corrupt, who drinks injustice like water?" He paused and then began again in the cadence of ancient instruction. "Hear me now, and I will declare what I have seen, what the wise have told, truths not kept secret, but passed down from our fathers, those who alone possessed the land before any foreigner set foot among them." He described the fate of the wicked in grim detail. All the days of the wicked he writhes in pain. The years stored up for the ruthless are full of dread. Alarming sounds ring in his ears. Even in peace, the destroyer comes for him. He does not believe he will return from darkness. He is marked for the sword. He wanders, searching for bread like prey for the falcon. He knows the day of darkness is near. Trouble and anguish overtake him like a king rushing into battle, because he has raised his hand against El, defied him who suffices, run arrogantly at him with his shield held high. With a scornful sneer, Eliphaz described the wicked man's fate. His face is covered with fat, his waist bulges with flesh, yet he dwells in ruined cities, in abandoned houses destined for desolation. He will not prosper. His branches will wither, the flame will consume what remains. His blossoms will be scattered like unripe grapes, his fruit cast off like the olive before its time. And he ended with a final declaration, his voice now dark and final. For the company of the corrupt is barren. Fire consumes the tents of bribery. They conceive trouble and give birth to wickedness, and their womb prepares only deceit." Then Job lifted his voice again, with the bitter calm of a wounded soul made raw by the silence of Elohim and the cruelty of men. "I have heard much of this before," he said, his eyes scorched by grief. "Wind and empty balm, such are the comforts you offer. Miserable comforters, all of you." He looked upon them, not in anger, but with a tired contempt. "Shall there be no end to your storm of words? What provokes you to speak as if your soul burns with pain when it is mine that bleeds? If your soul were in the place of mine," he continued, "I too could speak as you do. I too could bind together fine declarations, tilt my head in practiced pity, and let false wisdom fall from my lips like dust from brittle scrolls. But instead, I would speak to strengthen, I would soothe. My mouth would give rest, not reproach. The condolence of my lips would stay your grief, not multiply it." Yet his voice dropped again, heavy with weariness. "But whether I speak or keep silent, my pain remains. Nothing turns it back. No word dislodges it." He turned inward, cradling the wreckage of his spirit. "You, El Shaddai, have wearied me. You have scattered all who once stood by me. My body wastes away, a witness rising against me. My face is hollow, my skin clings to bone, and all of it testifies." "And it is you," he whispered, "you who hunts me like prey. Your teeth grind into me in anger. Your eyes gleam with fury. Men laugh at me, mouths agape with mockery. They strike my cheeks. They spit shame like water. They gather like vultures circling a carcass. You have handed me over to the wicked, El, delivered me into their gloating hands." "I was at ease," he said with sorrow, "but you shattered me. You took me by the neck and crushed me, set me up like a mark for arrows. Your archers surround me, piercing my sides without pity, spilling bile upon the dust. Like a wall breached again and again, I am torn without end. You run at me like a warrior drunk with conquest." He pressed his face to the earth. "I have sewn sackcloth into my skin. I have buried my pride in the dust. My face is swollen with weeping, my eyes darkened with shadows. And yet, my hands are clean. There is no violence in them. My prayer is pure." Then he cried to the earth, "O earth, do not cover my blood. Let it not be hidden. Let my outcry find no rest, no grave. Let it echo upward." And lifting his gaze to the unseen heights, he said with trembling breath, "Even now, behold, my witness is in the heavens. My guarantor is above, in the heights beyond shadow. Though my companions mock and turn their faces, still my eyes pour out tears to Eloah. Would that he might plead for me, as a son before his father, as a man pleads for a friend." He turned away from them, already walking inwards toward the silence beyond speech. "For the years are few," he said, almost to himself, "and the road ahead is already beneath my feet, the path from which no traveler returns." Then Job spoke again, his voice low and thin, like the final flame of an oil lamp before darkness. "My spirit is drained," he said. "My breath is a whisper, my days are spent, and the tombs stand open before me. My life has become a shadow of itself. The grave waits, not with terror, but with a weary welcome." He looked around at the faces of his companions, his eyes clouded with sorrow. "Truly, mockers surround me. My eyes linger on their bitterness even in the night. Lay down a pledge for me, O Eloah. Be my surety yourself, for who among men will clasp my hand in trust? You have closed their hearts to understanding, therefore you will not let them triumph." His voice hardened briefly. Such men would betray their own friends for gain. They would sell a brother for a portion of silver, and yet the eyes of their own children would fail. You have made me a proverb among the people, I am one they spit upon, a tale told in scorn. My eye grows dim with grief. My body, my face, all are like shadows fading on a wall. The upright are appalled when they see me, he murmured. The innocent are stirred to rise against the guilty, yet still the righteous holds to his way, and he whose hands are clean strengthens himself. He looked again upon the three who had come to comfort, but instead accused. But you, come now again, all of you. Return to your arguments, though I will not find a wise man among you. My days are past, my hopes undone, the longings of my heart torn apart. He lifted his hand as though tracing the last light of day. You turn night into day. You tell me the light is near when darkness has already swallowed it. I know what awaits me. The unseen, Sheol, is my dwelling. I have spread my bed in the place of shadows. Then, with hollow resignation, he spoke of his only kin left to him. I say to corruption, you are my father, and to the worm, my mother and my sister. His voice cracked. Where then is my hope? Who shall see any good for me? Shall my hope descend to the grave? Shall we together lie down in the dust? And there was silence. The ashes beneath Job did not shift. The wind did not stir. The man of Uz, once the greatest of the East, sat now as one already half buried, alive only to speak, and speaking only to remember what it meant once to hope. Then Bildad the Shuhite answered, his voice sharp with weariness and disdain. How long will you continue with these storming words, Job? When will you understand? When will we finally be permitted to speak without this circling wind of your lament? Why, he asked, do you treat us like beasts, as though we are without sense? Are we unclean in your eyes because we don't echo your pain? You who tear your own soul in anger, shall the whole world be upended for your sake? Will the earth be abandoned or the rock moved from its place simply because you suffer? Then he turned his gaze toward an ancient certainty, voicing the well-worn doctrine of retribution. Truly, the light of the wicked is extinguished. The flare of his fire gives no light. His tent grows dark, the lamp above him flickers out. His strength falters, his steps become narrow. His own counsel betrays him and casts him down. Bildad's words turned darker still, dense with imagery, vivid with threat. He walks into a net, caught by his own feet. A snare clasps his heel. A trap waits for him in secret. All around, terrors close in, silent, patient, sure. His limbs grow weak with hunger. Sickness devours his skin. The firstborn of death consumes his flesh. He is torn from the shelter he trusted. The king of terrors marches him away. Another takes up his tent. Sulfur sifts down upon his ruined home. His roots below wither. His branches above are cut off. His memory vanishes from the earth. His name is no longer spoken in the open fields. He is thrust from light into shadow. No children, no descendants remain. No survivor dwells where he once lived. Those from the west shudder at his fall. Those from the east recoil in dread. Then, with finality, Bildad pronounced the judgment. Surely this is the place of the wicked man. This is the rip-lace of the one who did not know El. And though he did not name Job directly, the implication burned in the air, clear, cruel, and cold. Job answered again, his voice tired yet unbroken. How long will you continue to torment me with words? You crush my soul with your accusations. 10 times now you have humiliated me. Are you not ashamed to wrong me again and again? Even if I had indeed erred, he said, my error would be mine alone to bear. But you, exalting yourselves over me, make my suffering a case against me, using my pain as proof of guilt. But know this, it is not you who have overturned my life. It is Eloah himself who has brought me down. He has caught me in his net, enclosed me in darkness. He looked around at the wreckage of his once stable life. I cry out, "Violence!" But there is no answer. I plead for justice, but judgment does not come. My path is blocked. I cannot move forward. My way is covered in shadow. My crown is gone, my dignity stripped. He has uprooted my hope like a tree torn from the soil. The wound of alienation opened wide as Job spoke. His anger burns against me. He counts me among his enemies. His troops surround me, raise siege ramps against my tent. My brothers keep their distance. My friends have turned their backs. Those I once knew now treat me as a stranger. Even the servants in my own house do not recognize my voice. I call to them, and they ignore me. My own wife recoils from me. My brothers and sisters loathe the sight of me. Children mock me in the streets. Those I once loved now hate me. I am skin and bones, a whisper of what I once was. Only the skin of my teeth has escaped. With tears rising, he begged, "Have mercy on me, my friends. The hand of Elohim has struck me. Must you also pursue me as he does? Will you never be satisfied, even after devouring my flesh?" And then, suddenly, a piercing light in the midst of shadow. Job lifted his voice in defiance of despair. "Oh, that my words were written," he cried, "that they were inscribed in a scroll, etched with an iron tool on lead, engraved in rock forever." And then, from the deepest anguish, Job declared his undying hope. "But I know that my Redeemer lives, and in the end he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see Elohim. I myself will see him with my own eyes. I, and not another. My heart faints within me." He turned back toward his accusers. "If you say, 'How shall we pursue him?' know this, the root of the matter is in me. Beware the sword, for wrath brings the punishment of the sword, that you may know there is a judgment." Zophar the Naamathite answered, unable to restrain himself. "My thoughts are stirred by unrest within me," he said, "and they compel me to speak. I've heard rebuke that insults me, and a spirit of understanding within me urges a reply." "Don't you know this?" he asked Job, his voice stern. "Since the days when humans were placed on the earth, it has always been the same. The rejoicing of the wicked is brief, and the joy of the defiled lasts but a moment. Even if his pride soars to the heavens, even if his head touches the clouds, he will vanish forever like his own filth. Those who once looked upon him will ask, 'Where is he?' Like a dream he will disappear, gone as a fleeting vision in the night. The eye that once saw him will see him no more, and his place will remember him no longer. His children will beg from the poor, and his own hands will give back the wealth he seized. Though his bones were once filled with the vigor of youth, it will lie with him in the dust." Zophar's tone grew sharper. "If wickedness is sweet in his mouth and he keeps it under his tongue, if he savors it, clings to it, refusing to let it go, even then it will turn sour in his stomach. It becomes the venom of cobras within him. What he swallowed down, Elohim will force him to vomit. The riches he consumed will not stay down. He sucked the poison of serpents. The viper's tongue will bring him death. He will never taste the streams of honey and cream. Though he labored and gained, he shall not enjoy it. What he took by force from others, he must now return. He will taste no rest, for his greed has driven him to endless craving. There is nothing left of his wealth, Zophar warned. His abundance will not endure. When he thinks himself full, distress will descend. Every form of misery will come upon him. In the moment he seeks to satisfy himself, El will unleash his burning wrath upon him. Like arrows of bronze, it will pierce him. Terror will overtake him. A sword flashes from his body, drawn from his gut, and dread wraps around him. Darkness is stored up for his secret treasures. A fire not fanned by man will devour them. All that remains in his tent will vanish. The heavens will uncover his iniquity, and the earth will rise against him. Floodwaters will wash away his house in the day of Eloh's wrath. This, Zophar concluded, is the portion assigned by Elohim to the wicked. This is the inheritance El has appointed for him. Job answered them once more, lifting his voice with clarity and restraint. "Listen closely to my words," he said, "and let this be the only consolation you offer me. Just bear with me as I speak. After I finish, then mock if you must. But understand this, my complaint is not directed toward man. Why should I not be impatient? Look at me and be appalled. Place your hand over your mouth. When I reflect on what I see in the world, dread seizes me and my body trembles. Why, he demanded, do the wicked live on? They grow old. They thrive in power and influence. Their children are established around them. They live to see generations pass before their eyes. Their homes are secure, untouched by fear, and the rod of Eloah does not fall upon them. Their bulls breed without fail. Their cows deliver without miscarriage. Their children dance freely, like flocks loosed to the field. They sing to the tambourine and the harp. They rejoice to the sound of the pipe. They spend their days in pleasure and in peace. They lie down in Sheol. And yet, Job said bitterly, they say to El, leave us be. We want no knowledge of your ways. Who is El Shaddai that we should serve him? What profit is there in prayer? Look at them. Their prosperity is in their own hands. Still, the counsel of the wicked is far from me. He leaned forward. How often is their lamp snuffed out? How frequently does calamity strike them down? How often are they scattered like chaff before the wind, like straw carried off by a whirlwind? Do you say that Eloah saves up a man's punishment for his children? Let him repay the man himself, that he may know it. Let his own eyes behold his ruin. Let him drink of the fury of Shaddai. For what does he care about his household once he is gone, when his own time has run its course? Will you presume to teach knowledge to El? He judges even the highest beings. One man dies in strength, with his body full and satisfied, his bones rich with marrow. Another dies in bitterness, never tasting good, and yet both lie in the same dust. The worms cover them both alike. I know what you're plotting against me, he warned them. I know the twisted arguments you will use. You ask, where is the house of the powerful one? Where is the tent of the wicked? Have you never asked those who travel the roads? Do you ignore what they witness? That the wicked are spared in the day of calamity, that they are escorted safely through the day of wrath. Who confronts them to their faces with their deeds? Who repays them for what they have done? They are carried with honor to their graves. Watchers stand guard over their tombs. The soil of the valley rests sweetly on them. Many follow after, and countless others have gone before them. So tell me, Job concluded with scorn, how can you continue to comfort me with such empty words when your answers hold nothing but deception? Eliphaz the Temanite stepped forward again, his voice bearing the weight of final judgment. Can a man be of benefit to El? He asked sharply. Even a wise man, does he profit anyone but himself? Do you think El Shaddai delights in your righteousness, or that your perfection brings him gain? Is it for your piety that he rebukes you and brings you to trial? He leaned in with accusation. No, Job, it is because your guilt is great and your iniquities without end. You've taken pledges from your brothers without cause, stripped the garments off the poor, withheld water from the faint, and denied bread to the hungry. Though you were strong and honored in the land, you cast out widows empty-handed and crushed the arms of orphans. That's why snares now surround you, he warned. That's why sudden terror overwhelms you, why darkness blinds your eyes and floods of anguish cover you. Then Eliphaz lifted his hand toward the sky. Is not Eloah higher than the heavens? Look at the stars, how lofty they are. Yet you say, "What does El know? Can he judge through thick clouds?" You think the darkness hides you, that he walks above the circle of the sky and cannot see. He charged Job with following the path of ancient evildoers, those who said, "Depart from us, El," and "What can Shaddai do to us?" They were swept away before their time, their foundations drowned. Yet, Eliphaz admitted, Eloah had filled their homes with good things. Still, he added, the counsel of the wicked is far from me. The righteous see their downfall and rejoice, Eliphaz claimed. The innocent laugh and say, the proud are crushed, fire has devoured their plenty. Then his voice softened, offering hope through repentance. Return to El Shaddai, he urged. Be at peace with him, and good will come to you. Receive his instruction, treasure his words in your heart. If you remove iniquity from your tent, if you lay your gold in the dust and count the treasures of Ophir as nothing compared to him, then El Shaddai himself will be your gold and your highest silver. You will delight in him again, he promised. You will lift your face to Eloah. You will pray, and he will hear you. You will fulfill your vows. Whatever you decide will be established, and light will shine on your path. When others are brought low, you will say, lift them up, and he will save the humble. Even the guilty will be rescued through the cleanness of your hands. Even today my complaint is still bitter. His hand lies heavy upon my groaning. Oh, that I knew where to find him. If only I could come to his seat of judgment. I would lay out my case before him. I would fill my mouth with arguments and pleadings. I would know how he would respond. I would listen and understand his answer. Would he contend with me using sheer force? No, surely he would not overwhelm me. There, in that court, the upright could reason with him, and I would be acquitted forever by my judge. But look, I go east, and he is not there. I turn west, and I cannot perceive him. If he works to the north, I do not behold him. He veils himself in the south, and I do not see him, but he knows the way I take. And when he has tested me, I shall come forth like refined gold. My feet have closely followed in his steps. I have kept to his path and not turned aside. I have not departed from the commands of his lips. I have treasured the words of his mouth deep in my heart. But he is one, and who can turn him? What his soul desires, that he does. He will complete his purpose for me, and he holds many such plans. And so I tremble before his presence. When I reflect, I am filled with dread. El has made my heart faint. Shaddai has unsettled me. Yet I am not destroyed by the darkness, nor by the thick gloom that covers my face. Why are times of judgment not set by El Shaddai? Why do those who know him never seem to witness his day of reckoning? The wicked move ancient boundary stones. They seize flocks and let them graze freely as if they were their own. They steal donkeys from the fatherless and take a widow's ox as collateral. They push the poor out of the way, and the oppressed must hide together, cast aside by society. Like wild donkeys in the desert, the poor go out early to scavenge for food, laboring until evening to find anything at all for their children. They glean among fields in the dark and pick through the leftover vineyards of the wicked. They sleep exposed, without clothes, shivering in the cold with no blanket for warmth. They are drenched by mountain rains, clinging to rocks for shelter. Others snatch orphans from their mothers' breasts and demand infants as guarantees of debt. The poor go about naked, hungry even while carrying sheaves of grain. They press oil between millstones, but go thirsty. They tread grapes in wine presses, but are never allowed to drink. In the cities, the dying groan and the wounded cry out for help, but Eloah does not bring charges against the wrongdoers. There are those who rebel against the light itself. They refuse to know its ways or walk its paths. When darkness falls, the murderer rises. killing the helpless and poor. In the night, he behaves like a thief. The adulterer waits for twilight, saying to himself, "No one will see me," and he covers his face to hide his identity. In darkness they break into houses. By day they lock themselves in, for they want nothing to do with the light. To them, morning is as dark as midnight. They thrive in the shadows where their wickedness remains hidden. They pass quickly across the surface of life like foam on water. May their share be cursed in the land. May they never again see the paths of the vineyards. As the heat and drought consume the snowmelt, so Sheol swallows up those who sin. May the street forget their names, and may worms feed sweetly on them. Let their memory vanish. Let their evil, like a felled tree, be broken off and forgotten. He exploited the barren woman, she who could not bear children, and showed no kindness to widows. Yet he drew away the strong by his might. He rose up, and none could trust in their own lives before him. Eloah granted him security, and he grew confident. Yet all the while, the eyes of El Shaddai were watching his every step. The wicked may be exalted briefly, but then they are gone. They are humbled, gathered up like all others before them, cut down like the heads of grain. If this is not how it is, Job challenged, then who can prove me a liar? Who can refute my words or make them meaningless? Then Bildad the Shuhite responded, brief and resolute, as if offering a final word of solemn doctrine. He declared that dominion and dread belong to Eloah alone. His rule is vast and incomprehensible, and his might establishes harmony in the heights above. In the divine realm, there is no chaos, only a sacred order set firmly by his power. Can anyone even begin to count his armies? Bildad asked. His celestial hosts are beyond number. His light rises upon all creation. There is no place where it does not reach. And with such grandeur before us, how could a mortal ever be considered righteous before El? Can someone born of a woman truly be pure? Even the moon, in its silver glow, does not shine brightly enough in his presence. The stars, radiant and unshaken in our eyes, are not pure in his sight. What hope, then, does man have, he who is but a fleeting breath, a speck in the dust? How much less, Bildad said with brutal clarity, is man, a creature like a maggot, and the son of humanity, a worm in comparison to the infinite one. With this, Bildad rested his case, casting the weight of his theology like a stone. In the face of divine majesty, human beings are nothing. Then Job answered, no longer with anger, but with a tone of reverent irony and awe. He began by questioning the worth of his friend's counsel. "How greatly," he said, "you have helped the powerless. What strength you have offered to the feeble arms. How abundantly you have explained wisdom to the ignorant. Truly, you have revealed the deep realities. Yet for whom exactly are these words spoken? Whose breath truly stirs behind your voice?" Turning from man's pretensions to the grandeur of Elohim, Job spoke of power far beyond comprehension. He described how even the Rephaim, the shadowy dead, quake beneath the waters, and how the realm of the unseen lies bare before Elohim's gaze. Abaddon itself is without veil in his presence. He marveled that Elohim stretches out the northern sky over the emptiness, suspending the earth on nothing at all. He binds up the waters in thick clouds, and yet the heavens do not split beneath their weight. He conceals the face of the full moon with his cloud, and marks the boundary line where light and darkness meet upon the face of the sea. Job spoke of the heavens trembling. At his rebuke, the pillars of the sky collapse in shock. By his power, he stills the roaring sea. By his wisdom, he shatters the proud sea monster Rahab. By his breath, the skies are made beautiful, and his hand has pierced the fleeing serpent, a creature of chaos subdued. And yet, Job concluded, these wonders are but the fringes of his ways. What little we hear of him is like the faintest whisper, but the thunder of his power, who can understand it? Job continued his discourse, lifting his voice with solemn conviction. He swore an oath before Elohim. As El lives, he who has denied me justice, and as Shaddai lives, he who has embittered my soul, so long as I have breath in me and the spirit of Eloah remains in my nostrils, I will not speak lies. My lips will not utter deceit. He declared his stance with unwavering firmness. Far be it from me to concede guilt to please you. Until my final breath, I will hold fast to my integrity. I will never release it. My conscience does not rebuke me for any day of my life. Turning his attention toward his accusers, Job made a solemn pronouncement. May my enemy be like the wicked, and the one who rises against me like the unrighteous. For what hope does the godless man have when he is cut off, when Eloah takes away his soul? Will El hear his cry in the hour of distress? Will he find delight in Shaddai? Will he call on Eloah at all times? Job offered to instruct them, those who had grown vain with hollow words, about the ways of Elohim. If you truly see and understand his hand at work, he challenged, then why do you still speak in futility? He then laid out the grim fate of the wicked, drawing a stark contrast between their fleeting success and their ultimate ruin. This, he said, is the portion the wicked receive from Eloah, the inheritance the ruthless obtain from Shaddai. Even if he has many sons, they fall by the sword, and his descendants never taste fullness. Those who survive die in pestilence, and even his widows do not weep. Though he heaps up silver like dust and stores up garments like clay, Job continued, he will not enjoy them. The righteous will wear those garments. The innocent will divide the silver. His house is like a spider's web, a fragile hut built by a watchman in the fields. He may lie down wealthy, but he will not rise again. Terror sweeps him away by day. At night, a storm snatches him from his place. The east wind hurls him with force. It drives him out in a whirlwind. Without pity, the wind strikes him as he tries to flee. People clap their hands at his disgrace and hiss him out of his dwelling. In this sober reflection, Job again affirms, the path of the wicked leads not to enduring prosperity, but to sudden and complete ruin, while he, though accused and crushed, stands firm in the truth of his integrity. In a profound poetic reflection, Job turned from the accusations and agony to contemplate a deeper mystery, the search for wisdom. He began by observing how humanity toils to extract treasures from the earth. Indeed, there are mines for silver and places where gold is refined. Iron is taken from the ground, and copper is smelted from ore. Men push back darkness with fire and flame, delving into places of deep shadow in their pursuit of precious materials. They tunnel into forgotten places, far from human pathways, laboring beneath the surface where the earth is overturned like fire. Beneath the fields that yield bread lie stones rich with sapphire and soils laced with gold. Yet for all this effort and knowledge, the path these miners take is unknown to the falcon's eye. The fiercest beasts, lions and panthers, have never walked there. Mankind reaches the depths, breaking rock, exposing underground rivers, and bringing secret things into the light. But then Job posed the ultimate question. Where can wisdom be found? Where does understanding dwell? It is not found in the land of the living. The deep ocean says, "It is not in me," and the sea answers, "It's not with me." No amount of gold or silver can buy it. Not even the gold of Ophir, onyx, sapphire, coral, or crystal can compare to its value. It surpasses even rubies and the finest treasures of Cush. It is beyond the reach of trade or wealth. Again, Job asked, "From where then does wisdom come, and where is the place of understanding?" It remains hidden from all living creatures, Even the birds of the sky have not seen it. Abaddon and death themselves whisper that they've only heard rumors of its existence. Only Elohim knows the way to wisdom. He alone understands its dwelling place. For he sees the ends of the earth and surveys all under the heavens. It was he who gave the wind its measure and set boundaries for the waters. He determined the laws for the rain and carved a path for the lightning's flash. Then Job concluded with a revelation, and he said to mankind, "Behold, the fear of Yahweh, that is wisdom, and to turn away from evil, that is understanding." Job lifted up his voice again, not in complaint this time, but in sorrowful memory. He yearned for the days gone by. "Oh, that I were as in months past, as in the days when Eloah watched over me." He recalled how, in those golden days, the lamp of Eloah shone over his head, lighting his path even through darkness. He remembered when the presence of El Shaddai dwelled with him, when his tent was secure, and his children gathered around him like a protective circle of joy. "My steps," he said, "were bathed in cream, and rocks poured out rivers of oil before me." His life flowed with abundance, every path smoothed by favor. He remembered the days he walked into the city gates, the place where the elders and judges sat, and how he took his seat among them with honor. The young would see him and hide out of reverent respect. The old would rise to their feet. Even the leaders fell silent at his presence, placing their hands over their mouths. Noblemen muted their tongues, and their speech clung like honey to the roofs of their mouths. When the ear heard me, it called me blessed. When the eye saw me, it bore witness. Why? Because he had rescued the poor who cried out for help, defended orphans, brought joy to widows, and became a voice for the voiceless. He wore righteousness like a garment, and his justice was like a royal robe and turban. He had been eyes to the blind, feet to the lame, a father to the needy, and an investigator of causes he did not even know, never resting until justice was served. He broke the fangs of the wicked, snatching their prey from their jaws. He had believed, perhaps naively, that it would last forever. "I shall die in peace, old and full of days, my roots ever refreshed by water, my glory renewed like the bow in my hand." Indeed, he had lived like a king among his people, offering counsel and comfort. When he spoke, people listened. His words fell like gentle rain, awaited with open mouths like dry ground yearning for the late spring showers. When others were lost in doubt, he brought confidence, and his smile lifted their gloom. "They waited for my counsel," he remembered, "and I chose their path." He had been a guide, a protector, a comforter. But now all that was gone, and only silence remained. But now, Job's voice trembles with bitter sorrow. Those who once would have never dared to look him in the eye mock him openly. The sons of men younger than he, men whose fathers he would not even have trusted to guard the dogs of his flocks, are now his tormentors. What strength did they have, these wasted men, emaciated and worn by hunger and exile, scrabbling in ruined lands like beasts? They lived on the edge of humanity, chewing on desert weeds, baking bitter roots for bread. Driven from society, they found shelter only in caves and crevices, braying like wild animals beneath the thorn bushes, creatures forgotten by dignity and severed from the land of the living. And these are the ones who now laugh at Job. "I have become their song," he says, "their byword, their contempt." They do not restrain their scorn. They spit in his face without shame. Seeing that El has loosed Job's cord, his dignity, his health, his strength, they now trample what remains. Like a rabble rising at his right hand, they push him off his path, lay traps before his feet, and heap further ruin upon his pain. They break down every boundary, pouring in through the breach like a flood. Chaos overwhelms him. Job's soul is poured out within him. Days of humiliation take hold of me, he confesses. Night brings no rest, only the gnawing pain in his bones, unceasing torment that claws at him without mercy. Eloah, once his comfort, now seizes him in fierce power, wraps him like a tight garment, hurls him into the clay. I am like dust and ashes, he mourns. He cries out, but Eloah does not answer. He stands, but no gaze of compassion returns. Instead, Eloah seems cruel, a silent enemy whose strong hand oppresses him without explanation. Job feels as though he's been caught up into the wind, tossed like chaff, dissolved into the storm. Surely, he whispers, you will bring me to death, to that house appointed for all the living. And yet, he protests, have I not wept for those in hardship? Have I not grieved for the needy? He had expected that goodness would come, that light would shine, but only darkness arrived. His bowels churn, his body burns with fever and collapse. He walks in mourning, veiled in shadow, crying out in the assembly like a beggar, unseen and unheard. He is no longer the prince at the gate. He is now a brother to jackals, a companion of ostriches, creatures of the wilderness, symbols of desolation. His skin peels blackened from his body, his bones burn with fever, his song is turned to weeping, and his shepherd's pipe plays only laments. Thus ends his cry, a man brought low from the heights, yearning not just for comfort, but for an answer from the silent heavens. And Job, with solemn conviction, delivered his final defense, a sweeping and sacred self-examination. I made a covenant with my eyes, he begins, not to look with desire upon a virgin. This was not a passing discipline, but a holy vow, rooted in reverence for El. For what portion would Eloah grant to one who is faithless in secret? What allotment would come from him who suffices if such hidden sins were permitted to thrive? Job affirms, calamity is reserved for the lawless, and disaster for those who walk in deceit. He calls El to judge. Does he not see all my ways? Does he not number every step I take? Job lays his life bare. If he has walked in falsehood, if his feet have chased after lies, let him be weighed on just scales. Let El test his integrity. If his steps turned from the right path, if his eyes led his heart astray, if any guilt clings to his hands, then let him sow in vain, and let strangers devour the fruits of his labor. If he ever coveted another man's wife or lurked near her door, may his own wife be taken by others, and his household be shamed. Such would be a crime, he declares, a fire consuming to destruction, one that uproots even the harvest. He continues without hesitation. If he had dismissed the pleas of his servants when they lodged a complaint, what answer could he give when El rose to judge? Had not the same Creator formed them both in the womb? If he withheld sustenance from the poor, if he caused widows to lose hope or denied orphans his table, then let his arm be broken from its socket. But no, he had shared his bread. He had clothed the cold and naked with the fleece of his flocks. The needy had blessed him, warmed in body and spirit because of his kindness. If he had ever raised a hand against the fatherless in arrogance, confident in his influence at the gate, let his shoulder fall away, let his arm be shattered from its place. For Job feared El, not just his presence, but the judgment he brings. I could not have endured before his majesty, he admits. He continues, if I placed my trust in gold, or boasted in the wealth I had gathered, if I had worshipped the radiant sun or moon in secret, lured by their glory, then let that also be judged as wickedness. For in that he would have denied the one above and disavowed Eloah. And what a vengeance! If I rejoiced in the ruin of my enemy, he says, or cursed those who hated me, let that be condemned too. But he had not sinned with his lips. His household had never seen a hungry man turned away, nor a traveler left in the street. His tent was open. The stranger found warmth and food and safety. If he had ever tried to conceal his sin like Adam, hiding his guilt from the eyes of others, he offers himself up to exposure. Let the indictment be written, he declares boldly. Let the Almighty respond. I will wear the accusations like a crown. I will walk with them on my shoulder, not with shame, but with dignity. Let it be known, if he had stolen land, withheld payment for labor, or crushed the poor who worked the soil, then let thorns grow in place of wheat and weeds instead of barley. With this oath, one of purity, justice, humility, and reverence, Job finishes his words. No more arguments, no more cries, just the record of a life he believed upright and an invitation to El to speak now or judge in silence. The words of Job are finished. The three friends of Job, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, fell silent. They had exhausted their arguments, for Job had persisted in declaring himself righteous, and they could find no way to refute him. Their silence marked the end of an old cycle, but it stirred the fire in someone who had waited patiently until now. Elihu, son of Barachel the Buzite from the family of Ram, was present, younger than the others. He had listened respectfully, holding his tongue because of their age. But now his anger burned. He was angry at Job for justifying himself rather than Elohim, and equally angry at the three friends because they had condemned Job without offering a valid answer. They had failed to defend Elohim with reason or clarity. Elihu had remained quiet out of deference. I am young, he thought, and you are aged. I feared to speak. I thought, let age speak. Let the wisdom of years bring understanding. But he had learned something in his silence. Wisdom is not guaranteed by age. It is the spirit within a person, the breath of the Almighty, that gives true understanding. Elders may not always be wise, nor the aged necessarily discerning in judgment. Having waited, observed, and listened carefully to their long exchanges, Elihu now steps forward. Now it is my turn, he says. Hear me out. Let me share my knowledge too. He had watched them struggle. I paid close attention, he said, but none of you convinced Job. You found no answer, and yet you condemned him. Don't flatter yourselves into thinking you've uncovered some hidden wisdom, as if El alone has argued against Job. You have said your part and failed. Elihu makes it clear. He will not echo their words. He will not parrot their arguments. I will not use your reasoning, he says, and I will not copy your replies. Now that they are silent, standing dumbstruck with nothing left to say, Elihu will speak. I have waited long enough, he says. My heart is full. I must speak. He describes his inner pressure like wine fermenting in a sealed container, new wineskins stretched to bursting. If I don't speak, he says, I'll explode. I must open my mouth and be heard. Elihu promises fairness. I will not show partiality, he declares, nor flatter anyone. I know no flattery. If I tried, my Maker would swiftly remove me. With this, the young man steps forward into the silence left by the wise. He is no longer a mere observer. Elihu has entered the debate. Elihu turns directly to Job now, asking him to listen closely. Please, Job, hear me out, he says. Give attention to all my words. With sincerity and humility, Elihu opens his mouth to speak, not with arrogance, but with a heart that seeks what is right. The spirit of El made me, he affirms, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life. He invites Job to respond if he can, to stand and answer, but Elihu also emphasizes their shared humanity. I too was formed from clay. You have no reason to fear me. I will not press down on you. Elihu then addresses Job's earlier claims. those statements where Job had declared himself blameless and unjustly treated by Elohim. You said, I am pure without sin, yet Elohim finds fault with me and treats me as an enemy, keeping me under surveillance. Elihu rejects this conclusion. You are not right in this, he insists. Elohim is greater than any mortal. Why do you accuse him of not answering when he speaks again and again, though people often fail to notice? He explains how Elohim speaks, perhaps not always with a voice, but through dreams and visions in the night, when people lie asleep and vulnerable. In those moments, Elohim opens ears and speaks warnings, turning people away from wrongdoing and restraining their pride. Suffering, Elihu says, is not necessarily punishment, but a form of mercy. Elohim using affliction to protect the soul from death and draw the heart back to life. Elihu paints the picture of a man weakened by illness, near death, his body wasting away, his appetite gone. But then, if there is a mediator, Elihu says, a messenger, a guide, 1 in 1,000 to show him what is right, and if Elohim has mercy and says, spare him, I have found a ransom, then his flesh is renewed like a youth, and he returns to vitality. That man will then turn to Elohim with joy. He will pray, and Elohim will accept him. He will stand before God with shouts of joy and declare, I sinned and perverted what was right, yet I was not repaid as I deserved. He redeemed my soul from the pit, and I live in the light. Elihu emphasizes that Elohim does this not once, but again and again, seeking to restore a person from the brink, to bring them back to life and light. And now Elihu looks Job in the eye. Listen to me, he says. Be silent, and I will teach you wisdom. If you have something to say, speak. I want to justify you. But if not, just listen, and I will show you the path of understanding. Elihu continues his bold response, now turning to address all the wise men present. Listen to me, you men of understanding, he urges. Just as the ear tests words like the tongue tastes food, let us weigh together what is right. Let us discern what is good. He quotes Job, summarizing his complaint. I am innocent, but Elohim has taken away my justice. Though I suffer a mortal wound, I have committed no wrong. Elihu is deeply disturbed by such a claim. Who speaks like this? He asks. Job drinks in scorn like water. He keeps company with the wicked and walks alongside evildoers. He says there's no benefit to living in reverence before Elohim. Elihu passionately rejects this view. Far be it from El to act unjustly, he declares. The Almighty does not pervert justice. He repays every person according to their deeds. He challenges the crowd. Who appointed Elohim as ruler over the earth? Who gave him charge of all creation? If he chose to withdraw his breath and spirit, all humanity would perish together and return to dust. Then Elihu appeals again to their reason. If you have understanding, listen to me. Can one who hates justice truly govern? Would you dare condemn the most just one? He shows no favoritism to kings or nobles. He does not prefer the rich over the poor. All people are the work of his hands. Elohim, Elihu continues, watches everyone. His eyes are on every path a person takes. No darkness can hide evildoers from him. He needs no court hearing to judge anyone. He brings down the mighty without investigation and sets others in their place. He knows what people do and overthrows them silently in the night. He continues, He strikes down the wicked in full view because they turned away from him and ignored his ways. They oppressed the poor, and their cries reached his ears. When he is silent, who can accuse him? When he hides his face, who can find him? He rules over nations and individuals alike to prevent corrupt men from seizing power and ensnaring the people. Elihu imagines a person repenting and saying to Elohim, I have sinned, and I will not do so again. Teach me, and I will follow. but he warns against assuming that Eloah must repay us on our terms. Should God reward you according to your demands just because you reject his way? He asks. You must choose, not I. So speak up. What do you know? He concludes with the judgment of the wise. Job speaks without knowledge, and his words lack insight. I wish he would be tested to the end, because he responds like wicked men. He adds rebellion to his sin. He claps his hands in defiance among us and multiplies his words against Eloah. Elihu continues his response to Job, challenging his underlying assumptions. Do you think this is just? He asks. You say, what advantage do I have? What benefit is there in not sinning? But let me answer you and your friends as well. He begins with a question of perspective. Look up to the heavens. See how high the clouds are above you. If you sin, what effect does that have on Eloah? If your transgressions multiply, how do they harm him? And if you are righteous, what do you give him? What does he receive from your hand? Elihu insists that Eloah is not changed or improved by human behavior. Your sin may harm others like yourself, and your righteousness may benefit fellow humans, but not Eloah directly. Then Elihu turns to the cries of those who suffer. People groan under oppression. They cry out beneath the arm of the mighty. But no one says, where is Eloah my maker, who gives songs in the night, who teaches us more than the beasts of the earth, and makes us wiser than the birds of the sky? These people suffer and cry out, yet their focus is misdirected. They do not seek Eloah in humility or understanding. Because of their pride and arrogance, Elihu explains, their cries go unanswered. Eloah does not listen to vain pleading. He turns to Job again, saying, how much less will he hear you when you say you do not see him, though your case is before him and you wait for him? Elihu accuses Job of speaking rashly. You say that justice is not done, but your words are empty. You open your mouth without knowledge, and your talk is without wisdom. Elihu continued his speech, urging his listeners to stay with him a little longer, for he had more to say on behalf of Eloah. He claimed that what he would share came from afar, full of insight and truth, and that he would ascribe righteousness to his Maker. Assuring them that his words were sincere and trustworthy, he affirmed that one of integrity was speaking among them. He declared that El is mighty in strength and does not reject the pure-hearted. Though he does not allow the wicked to live, he grants justice to the afflicted. Eloah keeps his watchful eyes on the righteous and exalts them, even seating them with kings on their thrones. But if people are bound in chains, held fast by cords of affliction, then Eloah reveals to them their deeds and exposes their pride and wrongdoing. Through this, he opens their ears to correction and calls them to turn back from lawlessness. If they listen and serve him, they will live their days in prosperity and peace. But if they refuse, they will perish without understanding. The godless, filled with anger, refuse to cry out even when he binds them, and they die young, ending their lives among the degraded. Yet Eloah delivers the afflicted through their suffering and uses oppression to speak to them, bringing truth to their ears. Elihu told Job that Eloah was also drawing him out from distress, toward a spacious and unrestricted place where his table would be filled with abundance. However, Elihu warned him not to be seduced by wealth or swayed by great gifts, as these could not bring true deliverance. He urged Job not to long for the night, when people vanish in judgment, and not to return to wrongdoing, for his suffering had come as a test to turn him away from it. Elihu proclaimed that El is exalted in his power, and no one teaches like him. No one can accuse him or question his ways. Therefore, he said, remember to praise his works, which are sung about by all. Humanity sees his deeds, though only from a distance, for El is so great that he is beyond full understanding. The span of his years is beyond measure. He gathers water into droplets, which distill into rain for the mist, and these fall from the skies in showers upon humankind. Who can understand how the clouds spread out, or the thunder that echoes from his dwelling? Eloah covers the skies with mist and reaches even to the depths of the sea. With the storm, he nourishes the nations and provides abundant food. He holds lightning in his hands and guides it with precision. His thunder announces the storm's approach. Even the cattle sense what is coming. Elihu continued, declaring that his heart trembles and leaps from its place when he considers the power of Eloah. He urged his listeners to pay close attention to the thunderous sound of Eloah's voice, the rumbling utterance that comes from his mouth. Eloah unleashes his voice under the entire heavens, sending lightning across the entire earth. Then, with great power, he causes his voice to roar, thundering in such a way that it cannot be restrained, so that his voice is clearly heard. Elihu marveled that El speaks so wondrously through thunder, performing great deeds far beyond human understanding. He noted how Eloah commands the snow to fall on the earth and directs the downpours of rain, even the mighty ones. He places a seal on the hand of every human so that all people may recognize his work. The animals retreat into their dens and settle in their lairs, while the whirlwind comes from its chamber and the cold winds blow across the land. By the breath of El, ice is formed, and vast bodies of water freeze into solid masses. Eloah loads the clouds with moisture and scatters lightning through them. He guides them around the skies according to his purposes, orchestrating their movements to fulfill his will across the face of the whole inhabited world. Whether as a rod of discipline or as a gift of kindness, Eloah causes these things to happen according to his plan. Elihu then called directly on Job to listen and to stand still, inviting him to contemplate the marvelous works of Eloah. He asked whether Job understands how Eloah commands these forces, or how he causes lightning to shine from the clouds. Could Job grasp the balancing of the thick clouds, the marvelous works of the one perfect in knowledge? Elihu pointed out that even Job's garments become warm when the south wind quiets the earth, an observable sign of divine activity. He challenged Job further. Could he with Eloah stretch out the skies like a strong, polished mirror? Elihu then humbly admitted human limitations. Tell us what we should say to him. We cannot arrange our case because of the darkness. Should anyone dare to speak or even request to be heard? Who could survive such an encounter? Men cannot even look directly at the blazing sunlight in the sky once the wind has swept through and cleared the clouds. And from the north, brilliant light, a golden radiance arrives, signaling the splendor of Eloah, which is truly awe-inspiring. El Shaddai cannot be comprehended. He is great in power, in justice, and in overflowing righteousness. He does not oppress unjustly. Therefore people fear him. Truly, all who are wise in heart revere him. Then Yahweh answered Job from the whirlwind, saying, Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird your loins like a man, for I will question you, and you must answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the measuring line across it? On what were its bases sunk, or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of Elohim shouted for joy. Who shut in the sea with doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band? When I fixed limits for it, set its bars and doors, and said, Thus far shall you come and no farther. Here your proud waves shall stop. Have you ever in your life commanded the morning or made the dawn know its place, that it might grasp the edges of the earth and shake the wicked out of it? It is transformed like clay under a seal, and its features stand out like a garment. but the light is withheld from the wicked, and the uplifted arm is broken. Have you journeyed to the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the vast expanse of the earth? Declare it if you know all this. Where is the way to the dwelling of light and darkness? Where is its place, that you may lead it to its domain and discern the paths to its home? Surely you know, for you were born then, and the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or seen the storehouses of the hail, which I have reserved for times of trouble, for days of battle and war? Where is the path to the place where the light is divided, or where the east wind is scattered over the earth? Who has cleft a channel for the torrent of rain, or a path for the thunderbolt, to bring rain on a land where no one lives, on the wilderness in which there is no man, to satisfy the desolate waste and make the sprout of grass to grow? Does the rain have a father, or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb did the ice come forth? Who has given birth to the frost of heaven, when the waters harden like stone, and the surface of the deep is frozen? Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades, or loosen the cords of Orion? Can you bring forth the constellations in their season, or guide the bear with its cubs? Do you know the laws of the heavens, or can you establish their rule over the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, so that an abundance of waters may cover you? Can you send out lightning, and will it go, saying to you, "Here we are"? Who has put wisdom in the inward parts, or given understanding to the mind? Who can number the clouds by wisdom, or tilt the waterskins of the heavens, when the dust hardens into a mass and the clods stick fast together? Can you hunt prey for the lioness, or satisfy the appetite of young lions, when they crouch in their dens, or lie in wait in their lair? Who provides food for the raven when its young cry out to El and wander about for lack of food? Are you acquainted with the birthing of the mountain goats? Do you observe the labor pains of the deer? Can you count the months they must complete? Do you know the time when they give birth? They crouch, they deliver their young, and bring forth the pains of labor. Their offspring thrive. They grow up in the open fields. They leave and do not return. Who set the wild donkey free? Who untied the ropes of the onager? I made the wilderness his home and the salt land his dwelling. He laughs at the noise of the town and does not hear the shouts of the driver. He roams the hills for pasture and seeks out every green thing. Will the wild ox agree to serve you? Will he spend the night at your feeding trough? Can you harness him with ropes to plow the furrows, or will he follow you through the valleys? Will you rely on his great strength? Will you leave your work to him? Can you trust him to bring your grain home and gather it to your threshing floor? The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully, but are they the pinions and feathers of a stork? She lays her eggs on the ground and lets them warm in the dust, forgetting that a foot might crush them or a wild animal trample them. She treats her young as if they were not hers. She has no fear that her labor might be in vain. For Eloah has deprived her of wisdom and given her no share of understanding. Yet when she spreads her wings to run, she laughs at horse and rider. Do you give the horse its strength? Do you clothe its neck with thunder? Do you make it leap like a locust? Its majestic snorting is terrifying. It paws in the valley and rejoices in its power. It charges into battle fearlessly. It laughs at fear and is not dismayed. It does not turn back from the sword. The quiver rattles on its back, the flashing spear and javelin. With thunderous fury it devours the ground. It cannot stand still when the trumpet sounds. At the blast of the trumpet it says, "Aha!" And from afar it senses the battle, the thunder of the commanders and the war cry. Is it by your wisdom that the hawk takes flight and spreads its wings toward the south? Is it at your command that the eagle soars and builds its nest on high? It dwells on the cliff, makes its home on the rocky crag, a stronghold. From there it searches for prey. Its eyes detect food from far away. Its young drink blood, and where the slain are, there it is. Then Yahweh answered Job and said, "Will the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? Let the one who accuses Eloah answer." Then Job replied to Yahweh, "Behold, I am insignificant. How can I reply to you? I place my hand over my mouth. I spoke once, but I have no answer. Twice, but I will say no more." Then Yahweh answered Job from the whirlwind and said, "Gird yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall inform me. Would you discredit my justice? Would you condemn me so that you may be justified? Do you have an arm like El's? Can you thunder with a voice like his? Adorn yourself with glory and majesty. Clothe yourself with splendor and honor. Unleash the fury of your wrath. Look on the proud and bring them low. Look on all the arrogant and humble them. Crush the wicked where they stand. Bury them all in the dust together. Shroud their faces in the grave. Then even I will acknowledge that your own right hand can save you. Behold now Behemoth, which I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. See his strength in his loins and the power in the muscles of his belly. He stiffens his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are tightly knit. His bones are like tubes of bronze, his limbs like bars of iron. He is the first of the works of El. Only his maker can draw near him with a sword. Surely the mountains yield food for him, and all the wild animals play nearby. Under the lotus trees he lies, hidden among the reeds and marsh. The lotuses provide him shade. The willows of the brook surround him. If the river rages, he is not alarmed. He is confident though the Jordan surges to his mouth. Can anyone capture him by his eyes or pierce his nose with a snare? Yahweh asks, "Can you draw out Leviathan with a fishhook or press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in his nose or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he beg you with many supplications or speak to you gentle words? Will he make a covenant with you so you can take him as a servant forever? Will you play with him like a bird or tie him up for your maidens? Will traders bargain over him? Will they divide him among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons or his head with fishing spears? Lay your hand on him. Think of the battle. You will not do it again. Behold, the hope of capturing him is false. Even the sight of him brings terror. No one is fierce enough to rouse him. Who then is able to stand before me? Who has confronted me and come out unharmed? Everything under heaven belongs to me. I will not be silent about his limbs or his mighty strength or his graceful form. Who can strip off his outer covering? Who can penetrate his double armor? Who can open the doors of his face, ringed with his fearsome teeth? His back is made of rows of shields, tightly sealed together. One is so close to another that no air can pass between them. They are joined fast to one another, clinging together. They cannot be parted. His snorting throws out flashes of light. His eyes are like the rays of dawn. Firebrands stream from his mouth. Sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke pours from his nostrils like a boiling pot over burning reeds. His breath kindles coals, and flames pour from his mouth. Strength resides in his neck. Dismay dances ahead of him. The folds of his flesh are tightly joined. They are firm and immovable. His heart is as hard as stone, as hard as the lower millstone. When he rises up, the mighty are terrified. They withdraw in fear. The sword that reaches him has no effect, nor does the spear, dart, or javelin. He regards iron as straw and bronze as rotted wood. Arrows do not make him flee. Slingstones are like chaff to him. A club is like stubble. He laughs at the rattling of the javelin. His undersides are jagged potsherds. He leaves a trail in the mud like a threshing sledge. He makes the deep churn like a boiling cauldron and stirs up the sea like a pot of ointment. Behind him he leaves a glistening wake. One would think the deep had white hair. Nothing on earth is his equal. He is made without fear. He looks down on all who are haughty. He is king over all the proud beasts." Then Job answered Yahweh and said, "I know that you are able to do all things, and no plan of yours can be thwarted." You asked, "Who is this who obscures counsel without knowledge?" Indeed, I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me which I did not know. You said, "Listen now, and I will speak. I will ask you, and you will inform me." I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I recant and repent in dust and ashes. After Yahweh had spoken these words to Job, he said to Eliphaz the Temanite, "My anger burns against you and your two friends, because you have not spoken the truth about me, as my servant Job has. Now take 7 bulls and 7 rams, go to my servant Job, and offer a burnt offering for yourselves. My servant Job will pray for you, and I will accept his intercession so that I do not deal with you according to your folly. You have not spoken rightly about me, as my servant Job has." So Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite went and did as Yahweh commanded them, and Yahweh accepted Job's prayer. Then Yahweh restored Job's fortunes when he prayed for his friends. Yahweh gave Job twice as much as he had before. All his brothers, sisters, and former acquaintances came to his house, and they shared a meal with him. They comforted and consoled him for all the hardship Yahweh had brought upon him. Each one gave him a kesitah and a gold earring. Yahweh blessed Job's latter days more than his beginning. He had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 pairs of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He named the first daughter Jemimah, the second Keziah, and the third Karen Hapuch. Nowhere in all the land were found women as beautiful as Job's daughters, and their father gave them an inheritance along with their brothers. After this, Job lived 140 years and saw his children and their children to the 4th generation. Then Job died, old and full of days. If you enjoyed the video, leave a comment, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.